We all know Lord Zeno can erase universes with a single thought, but what if the profoundly calm man standing quietly behind his throne is actually the terrifying mastermind pulling all the strings? Today we are going to dive deep into the legendary figure who possesses absolutely unrivaled martial arts. He is definitively the absolute strongest entity in Dragon Ball Super right now, acting as a god with truly boundless, infinite power. Speaking strictly about his hierarchy, he ranks only right beneath Lord Zeno, essentially standing below one being but reigning above countless billions. Yet the actual intel about him remains extremely rare. So what are the hidden truths about him? I have a few extra inquiries. Please help me answer them and supply more crucial details down below. I will make sure to pin the single most valuable comment right there. 1. His true name remains unknown. Commonly called the Grand Minister, or simply the Ultimate High Priest, he is the Supreme Grand General, the absolute highest overseer, and his primary occupation involves closely following and advising Lord Zeno constantly. He actively manages every single operation across the entire multiverse, strictly enforcing the divine decrees handed down by Lord Zeno himself. He acts as a loyal butler welcoming guests for Zeno whenever visitors arrive. His godly species and exact age remain completely unconfirmed. Previously residing in the Angel Realm, he now lives at Zeno Palace. His height is rather short, probably maxing out around 144 centimeters. 2. My earlier introduction stating he stands below 1 and above billions is actually not entirely accurate at this exact moment, because right now, he is technically inferior to at least 2 supreme beings, and those are the present Zeno along with future Zeno. His status might be lower, but his true power level is wildly unpredictable, since we have never actually witnessed the Grand Minister fighting completely all out even a single time, and honestly, he absolutely does not even bother doing something so utterly pointless. 3. Within the manga storyline, the Grand Minister is strictly considered the absolute strongest entity across the entire known multiverse. When absurdly overpowered gods clash against each other using their absolute maximum strength, he can effortlessly nullify their catastrophic, world-ending attacks, using literally just a single finger to block them. His raw power and overwhelming authority are so unfathomably massive that absolutely every Supreme Kai and Destroyer god immediately falls to their knees right in front of him, desperately trying to show their absolute, utmost respect. Even the one known as the martial arts master of the Destroyer god, who is undeniably the absolute strongest entity in Universe 7, fully admits that his own catastrophic power is essentially merely equivalent to the pinky fingernail of the overwhelmingly broken Grand Minister himself. With this immense power gap, even if Goku evolves into dozens of new hair color forms, he still definitely lacks the necessary strength to even dare challenge him to a solo fight. 4. In the anime, he is officially introduced as one of the top 5 strongest warriors across the entire vast multiverse. Man, this means there are still at least 4 deeply hidden, immensely overpowered top-tier masters who remain completely unrevealed, or perhaps they exist at such an absurdly high realm of seclusion that we basically have practically zero information about them whatsoever. Those 4 supreme individuals entirely possess the realistic capability to be far stronger than an actual angel, so maybe they currently reside within this specific multiverse, or perhaps deep inside an entirely different multiversal realm that is absolutely not governed by Lord Zeno at all. Or hypothetically, if those 4 individuals are already confirmed characters, then they would respectfully be Lord Zeno, Lord Salama, the 2 personal royal guards of Zeno, and finally the Grand Minister himself. So in your personal opinion, who are these exact individuals mentioned in Fact 4? 5. The Grand Minister can essentially be classified as entirely immortal. It severely looks like absolutely nothing in existence can ever manage to actually kill him, perhaps even the terrifying event of Zeno, this entire realm completely, unless Lord Zeno directly chooses to personally obliterate him. But honestly, I am completely clueless about that. It is heavily dependent on pure luck. However, there is one absolute certainty that would instantly cause his complete erasure from this very mortal plane forever, and that specific trigger is forcing him to severely violate the sacred angelic laws, the absolute rules of the angels demand, ensuring absolute cosmic neutrality for everything. Otherwise, they can literally do whatever bloody thing they heavily desire. Breaking these laws means instant erasure. So in your personal opinion, what other possible methods exist to completely destroy this overwhelming Grand Minister entirely? 6. It is completely unknown what the Grand Minister consumes to reproduce so absurdly fast, although currently, we do not know his actual wife, or perhaps it is purely asexual reproduction, but he somehow fathered at least 13 distinct children in total. specifically including 4 biological daughters alongside 8 biological sons, plus 1 exceptionally mysterious child with an entirely unconfirmed gender. This specific individual is definitely not some random insignificant weakling either. They are merely that incredibly overpowered entity widely known as Cos, who visibly possesses the typical outward appearance of a remarkably tall and heavily built masculine warrior. However, according to the official profile description directly provided by the legendary animation studio Toei Animation, their confirmed gender is bizarrely female. So do you personally consider this being as male or definitively female? 7. 12 distinct offspring of the Grand Minister currently serve as the guiding angels for 12 completely different universes across existence. The 13th child we already clearly know is actually Meru's, a deeply flawed individual deliberately sent down to Universe 7 to directly experience a mortal lifestyle, so that later on he could potentially become a truly authentic angel. But arriving right at this exact point, a rather terribly dark reality suddenly emerges, as you mates are already fully aware. Previously, this massive multiverse originally contained a staggering total of 18 distinct realms, until one fateful time the incredibly childish Lord Zeno threw a massive tantrum, effortlessly erasing 6 entire realities, leaving exactly 12 active ones just like today. Therefore, realistically, there should logically exist 6 fully matured angelic beings who were previously assigned to those 6 erased universes permanently, right, when there is absolutely no designated universe left to blindly serve anymore. Where exactly did those massively overpowered entities truly disappear to right now? Did they tragically become deeply corrupted fallen angels, or were they completely annihilated merely because their fundamental utility value totally expired forever? Well, there is also a massive possibility they were violently banished straight back to the angel realm, just to desperately live out their miserably final remaining days in absolute isolation. So what do you personally think will be the ultimate destiny of those 6 fallen angelic entities? 8. The Grand Minister genuinely seems to somewhat favor Goku, perhaps whenever he visually notices Lord Zeno feeling incredibly joyful while meeting this hyperactive, Saiyang mortal. He himself consequentially feels a bizarre sense of shared happiness, and from that specific moment, he heavily appreciates the remarkably casual attitude Goku boldly displays towards the Supreme Lord Zeno. He even subtly chuckles whenever Goku randomly assigns completely ridiculous, incredibly silly nicknames directly to the omnipotent Zeno himself. Taking extreme advantage of this, Goku heavily escalates his absurdly casual behavior, acting entirely like some random utterly insignificant bug crawling on the streets towards both the overwhelmingly powerful Grand Minister and Lord Zeno. Logically speaking, he secretly favors Goku anyway, so he casually lets it permanently slide entirely. Even though this exceptionally reckless mortal is slightly lacking in proper divine etiquette, however, his aggressively strict angelic children absolutely do not share that incredibly lenient mindset at all. One extremely frustrated son aggressively complained to Weiss, stating that Goku displays a massively disrespectful, incredibly cocky attitude towards our Supreme Father. So why do you act as the guiding angel of that specific universe but completely fail to instantly obliterate him entirely? Yet unfortunately, Weiss is terribly powerless. Goku is incredibly close friends with Lord Zeno, and having an impossibly massive protective shield like that, what exactly can anyone realistically do right now? 9. Normally we all heavily assume the overarching cosmic hierarchy within the entire Dragon Ball narrative is fundamentally a permanent, pre-existing structure, and it is universally mandated to function exactly like that forever, such as Lord Zeno reigning as the undeniably absolute supreme deity of the entire cosmos, followed closely by the immensely powerful multiversal overseers, and then the regional cosmic guardians directly commanding the north, south, east, and western grids of reality, down to the planetary deities or the extremely localized territorial gods. They all continuously operate in flawlessly perfect harmony with each other, functioning exactly like an incredibly well-oiled divine machine, where every single entity perfectly executes their specifically designated godly duties. But listen here, my mate, have you actually ever deeply considered if those overwhelmingly strict divine laws, or those meticulously crafted ultimate rules heavily forced upon every individual within that massive hierarchy, were truly established by an incredibly specific creator, or how that system actually manages to operate seamlessly? The Grand Minister is essentially the exact same case. Clearly he mysteriously manifested out of absolute nowhere right since the primordial dawn of multiversal creation, and holds one completely unchangeable, eternally permanent grand directive, which is actively serving as the supreme ultimate assistant for Lord Zeno since ancient, legendary times until right now. who exactly forced him to flawlessly execute such a monumental role eternally, who precisely established those infinitely complex universal laws that heavily restrict the incredibly overpowered angels alongside all living creation, and what is the actual monthly salary for the supremely broken Grand Minister? 10. Future Zeno completely eradicated his entirely distinct parallel universe, commonly referred to as the vastly desolate apocalyptic future timeline belonging to future Trunks. When that incredibly terrifying deity casually annihilated that entire existence, what exactly will forcefully become the ultimate, permanent destiny of his two supremely powerful royal guards, along with the Grand Minister himself, and the countless legions of extraordinarily broken angelic entities residing right over there in that void? Within the actual manga storyline, those two terrifying royal guards were completely utterly deleted, whereas inside the canon anime adaptation, those exact two guards somehow miraculously survived entirely safe. But what about the overwhelmingly massive Grand Minister himself? According to my personal hardcore logical deduction, right at that exact moment when the incredibly childish Zeno casually erased that entire world, instantly turning absolutely everything into pure absolute nothingness, the Grand Minister immediately rushed to locate the specific spatial coordinates of Lord Zeno, then instantaneously teleported there using completely godlike, absolutely blinding maximum speed, because strictly as long as Lord Zeno remains perfectly safe, they can flawlessly reconstruct absolutely everything right from scratch. But shockingly, before he could even significantly arrive anywhere, that ridiculously hyperactive mortal named Goku rapidly time traveled back and literally kidnapped that future Zeno entirely, dragging him straight into his own present timeline. And when Zeno permanently vanished from that dimension, it essentially permanently lost its absolute supreme multiversal core. At this precise terrifying moment, that specific reality truly suffered complete, absolutely irreversible multiversal annihilation, causing that entirely distinct parallel spatial universe ring to instantly vanish forever. And ever since that deeply catastrophic moment, the overwhelmingly powerful Grand Minister belonging exclusively to that parallel future was massively erased alongside it. So in your personal opinion, what truly is the definitively confirmed, terribly tragic fate of the massively broken future Grand Minister? Did he actually permanently die for real or absolutely not? 11. The profoundly fundamental, absolutely primary divine duty forcibly assigned to the Grand Minister that we can clearly witness is that he will strictly execute or loudly proclaim the absolute, undeniable, flawlessly supreme ultimate decisions handed down by Lord Zeno towards other heavily ranked cosmic entities for immediate enforcement. It massively seems like he absolutely cannot realistically perform any incredibly rebellious actions that violently oppose the sovereign will of Lord Zeno. But it is quite easily noticeable that there is heavily a slight, incredibly manipulative massive trick utilized right here. It heavily seems the supremely intelligent Grand Minister deeply intends to secretly exploit the absurdly childish, wildly immense stupidity flawlessly displayed by the terrifying Lord Zeno. So whenever he actively advises Zeno, he heavily carries a subtle, incredibly dark psychological intention to completely manipulate this wildly omnipotent, insanely childish entity. He essentially agrees to absolutely everything the minister says, and every single time he casually says okay, it actually becomes an absolute, undeniable divine supreme command that the intensely manipulative Grand Minister desperately desired to actively execute, exactly like heavily shown within the incredibly intense manga when Zeno grew incredibly overwhelmingly bored playing massive multiversal chess. The absolutely ruthless Grand Minister instantly opened his mouth and casually asked if he heavily wanted to entirely erase a few distinct universes entirely, waiting for that desperately bored answer of okay. He was then incredibly aggressively excited about heavily selecting which specific multiverse to brutally annihilate completely, regarding the incredibly strict scheduled timing for organizing the catastrophic massive tournament. He aggressively suggested a staggering time limit of 3 million units, and the incredibly childish gods naturally blindly agreed. The entire immensely complex process of forcefully summoning all supreme deities, actively establishing the widely brutal combat tournament rules, carefully analyzing what Zeno deeply loves or violently hates, deciding exactly what the vastly supreme ultimate reward is, and dictating the terribly brutal lethal punishment. Almost every single detail was either massively proposed directly by the Grand Minister himself, or wildly manipulated until Zeno casually said okay to absolutely everything, because honestly Zeno practically that holds any genuine multiversal value. And when Universe 9 and Universe 10 were permanently erased, the Grand Minister ominously smiled with absolute malice, clearly demonstrating a terrifyingly dark, and deeply brutal side of his true personality. I genuinely sense an immense abuse of absolute supreme power, right here. 12. The Grand Minister is an individual possessing a profoundly calm and deeply polite demeanor overall. However, his core personality remains intensely mysterious and exceptionally difficult to fully comprehend, because frankly, we have not encountered him extensively in either the main anime or manga. Even so, this exceptionally overpowered guy visibly appears vastly more pleasant than those two intensely rigid cosmic royal guards, presenting a remarkably compassionate gentle facial expression, constantly smiling and speaking with absolute soothing calmness. Just carefully watch him gently interacting with children. Does he not incredibly look completely trustworthy right there? That specific exceptionally calming behavioral attitude is exclusively reserved entirely for interacting with vastly lower multiversal entities, because honestly, he treats absolutely everything besides the Supreme Lord Zeno with overwhelming, terrifying absolute cosmic apathy. He literally never even twitches a single eyebrow when countless billions of mortal souls across the vast infinite multiverse are casually brutally completely annihilated entirely by Zeno. Absolutely any catastrophic multiversal apocalyptic fate or unimaginable tragic mortal suffering simply entirely feels exactly like crushed, utterly insignificant worthless little insects, tragically stuck inside a closing door to him. 13. When those two insanely unpredictable childish Zenos casually flipped over their massive divine multiversal chessboard, massively causing an absolute chaotic avalanche of celestial planets to crash down, one specific heavily doomed planet directly rolled straight into the heavily overpowered Grand Minister and completely shattered into pure absolute cosmic dust instantly upon hitting his foot. This extremely unexpected, abruptly violent event momentarily completely stunned his flawless composure, making him briefly blink fast and suddenly let out a very slight, incredibly quiet gasp. It seemingly wildly appeared exactly like he was actually quite deeply terribly anxious about accidentally physically completely annihilating that magnificent celestial planet himself. I heavily, desperately wonder, was he completely terrified of ruining the immensely childish fun by breaking their precious cosmic toy, or paralyzed by dread of severely violating the sacred angelic laws by violently obliterating an entire populated planet? 14. With an absolutely supreme multiversal Omni-King possessing such a terrifyingly deeply childish, wildly unpredictable personality, exactly like Zeno, permanently having the profoundly wise Grand Minister constantly serving as a trusted advisor beside him is practically an undeniably strict multiversal necessity. Otherwise Zeno would undoubtedly effortlessly commit immensely reckless, insanely deeply crazy catastrophic destructive acts, casually entirely blowing absolutely everything into permanent erased nothingness without any warning whatsoever, exactly mimicking the massively devastating apocalyptic scenario tragically witnessed in that completely erased parallel future timeline. That is entirely why the ultimate top cosmic advisor position fundamentally massively forcefully requires an individual possessing an immensely cold, flawlessly calculating mind, heavily armed with the incredibly overpowered capability to completely smoothly resolve absolutely any wildly chaotic universal crisis with complete multiversal perfection, and the massively incredibly overpowered absolute supreme Grand Minister is definitively exactly that supreme absolute pinnacle individual. He flawlessly maintains the absolute strictest cosmic divine multiversal order, and rigorously enforces proper polite divine etiquette among all highest supreme multiversal gods. He aggressively commanded the incredibly reckless Goku to remain entirely completely utterly silent during the profoundly intense ultimate martial arts exhibition match fiercely fought between Universe 7 and 9. Despite deeply passionately loving his exceptionally powerful divine angelic children, he ruthlessly stood in absolute terrifying dead silence, watching Universe 9 get permanently entirely completely deleted. He easily issued incredibly strict, entirely terrifyingly harsh punishments directly to Weiss. Alongside the vastly overpowered destroyer god Beerus, I am absolutely completely, firmly confident that he is the actual grand cosmic architect who forcefully completely perfectly established the absolute, multiversal hierarchy, carefully distributing vital divine godly duties, and creating the ultimate strict behavioral codes for all existing deities across this vast majestic multiverse. What are your absolutely honest thoughts on this epic lore? 15. The immensely powerful Grand Minister has actually dramatically showcased a massive amount of deeply gentle mercy and incredibly boundless serene cosmic harmony. He heavily completely spared Goku from instant absolute annihilation when this profoundly reckless mortal arrogantly refused to properly kneel before his overwhelming divine presence. He wisely gently advised Weiss to strictly appropriately discipline Merus when that specific incredibly powerful angel heavily risked severely violating the absolute sacred angelic laws. He miraculously fully effortlessly resurrected Merus, his profoundly precious son, directly securely converting the exceptionally powerful divine boy into a fragile, entirely powerless, completely harmless mortal, allowing him to peacefully continue eagerly living out his incredibly short, beautifully fragile earthly existence, entirely incredibly safe from permanent divine multiversal deletion. And most incredibly importantly, he heavily, perfectly, profoundly, totally appeared incredibly, significantly, entirely, completely, absolutely, less deeply, terrifyingly ruthless when Zeno brutally erased those hopelessly broken universes during the survival tournament. He absolutely possessed total supreme awareness regarding the true hidden core intentions of the Omni King throughout this brutally destructive tournament. That is undeniably correct. Because right when Android 17 passionately desired for the absolutely erased multiverse from the massive catastrophic battle to be flawlessly restored, he instantly smiled brilliantly, loudly praising Universe 7 for their intensely noble, overwhelmingly beautiful, and profoundly selfless multiversal sacrifice. If Android 17 somehow arrogantly wished for literally anything else, the terrifyingly immensely childish Lord Zeno would have effortlessly erased Universe 7 completely just for the sheer twisted absolute multiversal fun of it. We nearly tragically lost all 8 remaining surviving incredible universes, completely turning everything into utterly meaningless, empty, absolute, terrifying multiversal nothingness. That was clearly an incredibly dirty, manipulative, massive multiversal lethal trap perfectly orchestrated by the profoundly ruthless Grand Minister and the intensely unpredictable childish Zeno. How unbelievably terrifyingly cruel indeed.